Picture this. It's 3 in the morning in a city that never quite feels safe. Somewhere on a rooftop, a figure stands at the edge, cape moving in the wind, looking down at the streets below. No superpowers, no radioactive spider, no alien sun, no magic ring. Just a man who decided that the correct response to grief was to put on a costume and personally fix an entire city's crime problem with his bare hands. And we've all had the thought, watching him glide between skyscrapers, drive that impossible car, disappear into the dark. The thought that separates Batman from every other hero on the screen. I mean, I could do that if I had the money. And that right there is the whole video. Because that little if is doing an unbelievable amount of work. Superman is impossible. Spider-Man is impossible. But Batman? Batman is supposedly the achievable one. The one with no powers. The one who's just a guy with training and gear. And that's the greatest trick the character ever pulled. Because today, we're going to run the actual numbers on being Batman. Every line of it. And by the end, you're going to understand something uncomfortable. Batman does have a superpower. It's the most powerful force in this entire video, more powerful than the strength or the smarts or the fear he inflicts on criminals. It's the balance sheet, and it is the one thing about him you can never, ever train for. So let's do what we always do. Let's start at 0, and let's build a Batman from scratch, one purchase at a time, and watch the number climb until it stops being a hobby and becomes something closer to the GDP of a small country. First, the man himself. And here's where people think the cost begins and ends. The training. Because before any gadget, Batman is a human weapon. The canon says he mastered over 100 fighting styles, became a world-class detective, a chemist, an escape artist, a pilot. In the real world, how do you buy that? You don't buy it. You rent time from the best humans alive. A private world champion martial arts coach runs $300 to $500 an hour. Elite tactical and firearms training, thousands a day. A globe-trotting decade of apprenticeships under the world's greatest masters. Travel and lodging and their fees included. And you're looking at somewhere between $2 and $5 million just to turn a rich orphan into a physical prodigy. Call it $3 million for the man. Add it to the total. $3 million, and he hasn't put on the suit yet. And already, notice something. That $3 million is not the expensive part. Hold that thought, because it flips everything you think you know about this character. The training, the thing the movies spend an hour on, the thing that makes him relatable, is a rounding error. The real bill hasn't even started. And before we spend another dollar, we have to answer the question every buyer answers first. Which Batman are you building? Because there isn't one, there's a whole product line, and they do not cost the same. At the bottom, there's the grounded one, the street-level tactical Batman. Body armor, a good vehicle, practical gadgets, no flying, no satellite. Think of him as the starter build, a very serious ex-special forces operator with a theme. Expensive, but conceivable, low tens of millions. In the middle, the one most people picture, the high-tech detective with the supercomputer, the gliding cape, the militarized car, the underground base. This is the mainstream model, and it's the one we're pricing today because it's the definitive version. And then, at the top, there's the endgame Batman, the one who has, at various points, owned a satellite network that can surveil the entire planet, a private jet, a flying fortress, and enough contingency weaponry to take down his own superpowered friends if they ever went bad. That Batman isn't a vigilante, he's a private defense superpower with a 2-person head count. His budget doesn't have a ceiling, it has a horizon. Here's the lesson, and it's the same one the snake video learned at the morph table and the rabbit learned in the breed aisle. The fancy version is not a better hero. The street-level guy and the satellite-owning god stop the same mugging on the same corner. Every dollar above armor and a car is buying capability the actual mission rarely needs. But we're pricing the definitive Batman, so let's build him properly and watch where the money really goes, because it is not where you think. Now, the suit. And forget the rubber costume from the old films. We're building a functional one. The modern Batman wears, essentially, a wearable defense contractor showroom. Start with the armor, multi-layer body armor, the kind that stops a knife and slows a bullet, real-world advanced tactical plating, and Nomex-style fire-resistant weave, custom-fitted. That alone is $30,000 to $50,000 for the good stuff. Then the cowl, and the cowl is not a mask, it's a helmet that happens to look scary. Inside it, night vision, thermal imaging, encrypted radio, a heads-up display, sonar. You are strapping a fighter pilot's helmet, and a Special Forces optics suite to your skull. Real-world military helmet-mounted display systems cost as much as a luxury car all by themselves, $400,000 and up. Then the cape, and I love the cape economically, because in the modern version it's not fabric, it's a smart material, memory-shaped fibers that go rigid on command so he can glide. That's not off the shelf, that's a custom aerospace materials project, a research grant with a bat logo on it. And the boots, the gloves, the belt, all reinforced, all wired. Total a fully functional, survivable, tech-integrated suit, and you are somewhere around $500,000 per suit. Per suit. Because here's the thing nobody budgets for. He gets thrown through windows for a living. Suits get shredded, burned, shot, soaked. You don't own a suit, you own a supply chain of suits. Call it $1 million in year one suiting, once you account for the spares and the constant repair. Add it to the total. We're at $4 million. And hanging off that suit is the part every kid remembers, the utility belt. It looks like an accessory. It's actually a portable weapons lab. The grappling gun alone, a device that fires a line and then winches a 200-pound man up the side of a building in seconds, is a serious piece of engineering. A compressed gas launcher, a high-tension cable rated to hold a person, and a motor strong enough to lift them, all shrunk into something worn on the hip. Real-world powered ascenders exist for the military, and they cost thousands each, and they can't do half of what his does. Then fill the rest of the belt. Throwing blades machined to spec, smoke and flash devices, lockpicks and hacking tools, a rebreather, a medical kit, explosive gel. None of it is bought retail. All of it is custom fabricated in the cave. And all of it is consumable, meaning it's not a one-time cost. It's a factory he has to keep running. Tooling up the belt and the gadget line is easily another $1 million before you count the nightly resupply. Add it to the total, $5 million, and he still can't leave the driveway because we haven't bought the thing in the driveway. And now we get to the vehicle, and this is where the numbers stop being expensive and start being ridiculous. The car is not a car. Let's be honest about what it is. It's a privately owned armored fighting vehicle with the road manners of a supercar, and those two things do not naturally go together, which is exactly why it costs what a small building costs. In the real world, a military armored vehicle, and MRAP, the kind built to survive a roadside bomb, runs about $500,000 to $1 million, and it drives like a refrigerator falling downstairs. Batman wants that survivability, and he wants it to hit 60 in under 3 seconds, and corner like a race car and, in some versions, jump. That is not a product you can buy. That is a bespoke engineering program. Estimates for building a real, functional version of the Tumbler, the tank-like one, land around $18 million for a true one-off. Let's be conservative, because he's a smart buyer with his own factory, and call the main vehicle $3 million, knowing the high-end honest answer is many times that. And it needs armor-piercing countermeasures, run-flat tires, a weapons suite that is technically very illegal, and its own maintenance crew. Add it to the total, $8 million. And that's just the thing with wheels, because there's also a thing with wings. Yes, Batman has an aircraft, and in the modern versions, it's not a novelty, it's central. A stealth VTOL that takes off vertically, hovers over the city, and shrugs off radar. In real-world terms, you are blending an attack helicopter with a stealth aircraft, and there is simply no civilian equivalent, because civilians are not allowed to own one. The closest real analogs, military rotorcraft and stealth platforms, run from tens of millions into the hundreds of millions of dollars, and they come with a flight crew, a hangar, and a maintenance regime that costs more per year than most companies earn. Even building a stripped-down, one-off functional version, quietly, off the books, is a $20 to $40 million aircraft program with a bat on the tail. Call the aircraft $20 million, and understand that's the polite number. Add it to the total. We're at $28 million, and we still haven't built the place he parks any of it, because now comes the single biggest line item in the entire Batman budget, the one that dwarfs the suit and the car combined, and it's the one nobody thinks about because you never see the invoice, the lair. The Batcave is not a cave. I mean, it's in a cave, but what he's actually built down there is a private military base, fused with a data center, fused with a hospital, fused with a car museum. Let's itemize it, because this is where the billionaire part stops being a personality trait and becomes a construction project. You're excavating and reinforcing a massive underground structure under a mansion without anyone noticing, which means private contractors, non-disclosure agreements, and paying a premium for silence. Large-scale private underground construction runs into the tens of millions before you've installed a single gadget. Then, the supercomputer, and Batman's computer, is doing real-time facial recognition across an entire city. Satellite uplinks, crime pattern analysis. That's not a gaming PC, that's a private data center. Tens of millions in hardware and cooling and power. Add a full forensics lab, a medical bay that can perform actual surgery, a training dojo, a firing range, a fabrication workshop to build the gadgets, and vehicle bays for the car, the plane, the boat, and the motorcycle. A realistic, functional Batcave. The excavation, the computing, the labs, the power infrastructure to run it all off the grid so the electric company doesn't ask why one mansion draws as much power as a hospital comes to somewhere between $50 and $100 million. Let's call it 50 million and know we're being kind. Add it to the total. We are now at $78 million. And he has been Batman for approximately one night. Now, before we go further, I have to explain the engine of this whole thing, because if you're sitting there thinking, this is insane, nobody could afford this, you're right, and that's the entire point, and it's more interesting than it looks. Here's the secret that makes Batman financially possible, and it is not, he's rich. Lots of people are rich. Being rich buys you the car and the suit. It does not buy you the car and the suit, because you cannot walk into a store and purchase a memory fiber gliding cape, or a militarized supercar, or a facial recognition satellite array. These things do not exist as products, which means the real superpower isn't the money. It's that Batman owns the factory. Bruce Wayne doesn't buy his gear. He owns a multinational company with an advanced technology and defense research division. Every impossible gadget is a prototype that failed in testing, quietly written off the books, and walked out the back door into the cave. He's not a customer. He's the R&D department's only real client, subsidizing billions in research and skimming the results. The grappling gun, the cape, the armor, the car. They're not purchases. They're the output of a private applied sciences empire that exists, functionally, to arm one man. And that changes the economics completely, because it means the true cost of Batman isn't a shopping list. It's the cost of running an entire technology company at a permanent, deliberate loss so that its best work never reaches the market and instead goes to fighting crime at night. The moment you understand that, you understand why no amount of getting in shape will ever make you Batman. The suit is a costume. The company is the superpower, and you cannot bench press a balance sheet. Okay, he's built. Now let's talk about what nobody puts in the fantasy, the running costs. Because Batman is not a purchase, he's a subscription, and it's the most expensive subscription on Earth. Fuel first, and it's genuinely funny. That armored car with the jet-adjacent acceleration gets, generously, single-digit miles per gallon, and he drives it hard, every night, often being chased. The aircraft, and yes, there's an aircraft, a stealth VTOL that in real-world terms sits somewhere between an attack helicopter and a stealth jet, burns thousands of dollars in fuel per hour of flight. Just moving the fleet around the city, night after night, is a six-figure annual fuel bill before anything breaks. And things break constantly, because his entire job is high-speed collisions and explosions. The maintenance on a fleet of one-off, hand-built, weaponized vehicles is brutal. Because there are no spare parts on a shelf, every replacement is custom fabricated. Add the gadget consumables. He throws batarangs and doesn't collect them, fires grappling lines, deploys smoke, burns through the belt every night. That's a real, recurring materials cost. Then the staff. Because Batman is not a one-man operation, no matter what the brand says. There's the butler, and let's be honest about what the butler actually is. He's a live-in estate manager, a battlefield medic who stitches gunshot wounds, a logistics coordinator, a fabrication assistant, an intelligence analyst, and the only therapist this man will ever see. In the real world, that's not one salary, that's 5 specialists. And the discretion premium alone, paying someone enough to never, ever talk, is enormous. Call the human support structure $1 million a year, minimum, and that's lowballing loyalty that money frankly can't buy. Add it all up, the fuel, the maintenance, the consumables, the staff, the power to run that underground city, and the annual operating cost of being Batman lands somewhere around $5 million a year. Every year, forever. For a job that pays exactly $0 and generates no revenue, only expenses and property damage. Add year one's operating cost to the total. We're at $83 million, and the meter is running. And now the hidden costs, because Batman has a list, and every item on it is the kind of thing that shows up in fantasy never and reality always. Hidden cost number 1, the property damage. He is, lovingly, a walking insurance claim. Every chase totals cars that aren't his, shatters storefronts, cracks roads, drops the occasional piece of masonry through the occasional roof. In any real city, the collateral damage from one good Batman car chase is millions of dollars, and someone pays for it. Since he operates in secret, that someone is, quietly, him, through anonymous donations and shell companies patching up the neighborhoods he saved. The cost of being a hero includes cleaning up after being a hero. Hidden cost number 2, the medical bills, his own. This is a man whose body is a demolition site. Broken ribs, concussions, stab wounds, the slow spinal compression of jumping off buildings for 20 years. He can't exactly check into a hospital and explain the batarang, so he needs private, off-the-books, world-class trauma care, on call, permanently. A private surgeon and a fully stocked medical bay on retainer is a hidden salary and a hidden facility. And eventually, the deferred cost comes due because you do not do this job for 2 decades and walk away with a working spine. Hidden cost number 3, and this is the one the movies never invoice, the double life. Bruce Wayne has to be seen. He has to throw the galas, buy the sports cars in public, date the models, cultivate the reputation of a shallow playboy, all as a deliberate, expensive smokescreen so no one connects the bored billionaire to the man on the rooftops. The playboy persona is not a personality, it's an operating expense. Those parties, those very public purchases, that entire performance of a wasted life, it's marketing spend for a cover story, and it costs millions a year to maintain the illusion of a man who doesn't care. And there's a cost even the accountants forget, the one economists would circle in red, opportunity cost. Every hour Bruce Wayne spends hanging off a gargoyle is an hour the actual genius running a multinational is not running it. Every breakthrough his research division makes, the ones that could cure diseases, revolutionize transport, generate billions in honest revenue, gets classified, buried, and handed to a man to throw at criminals instead of sold to the world. The real price of Batman isn't just the $1.5 billion he spends. It's the untold fortune his empire never earns, because its best work disappears into a cave every night. He isn't just spending a fortune, he's suppressing one. That's the most expensive thing on this entire list, and it never shows up on a single receipt. So let's be realistic, like we always are, and put one bad year into the story. Because in a 20-year career you get at least one catastrophic year. The cave gets compromised and has to be rebuilt, the fleet gets destroyed in a single bad night. A major injury requires a full year of private rehabilitation, while the whole operation keeps paying its bills anyway. One catastrophic year, realistically, is $100 million year all by itself. Add it to the total. We are now well past $150 million, and we're only partway through his career. So let's run the lifetime numbers, optimistic versus realistic, like we always do. The optimistic Batman, and there is barely such a thing, builds the cave once and it lasts, keeps the same fleet for years, avoids the catastrophic rebuilds, and only pays the $5 million a year operating cost across a 20-year career on top of the roughly $78 million startup. That optimistic career lands around $180 million. And notice, even the fantasy-frugal version of this man spends more than most people's idea of generational wealth. There is no cheap way to do this, but we deal in realistic. And the realistic Batman rebuilds the cave at least once when it's discovered, replaces the entire fleet more than once as vehicles are destroyed and technology advances, absorbs multiple catastrophic years, funds the continuous R&D pipeline that produces the gadgets in the first place, and quietly pays for a city's worth of collateral damage across 2 decades. When you fold in the ongoing subsidy of the private research division, the true engine, the realistic lifetime cost of being Batman lands somewhere around $1.5 billion. Add it to the total, $1.5 billion. That's our number. To be a man with no superpowers. And now put that on the shelf next to the actual superheroes, because this is the punchline the character is built on. The powered heroes, the aliens, the mutants, the gods, they got their abilities for free. An accident, a birth, a bite, their power cost them nothing. Batman's power cost $1.5 billion and a childhood. He is, financially, the most expensive superhero who has ever existed, precisely because he's the only one who had to buy every single ability off the shelf, or rather, build the shelf, staff the shelf, and run the shelf at a loss forever. So the money question is settled, which leaves the real question, the one the whole video has been circling. What does the $1.5 billion actually buy? What is the superpower, really? Because here's what it isn't. It isn't the strength. Plenty of people are strong. It isn't the intelligence, or the willpower, or the training. Those are the $3 million at the very top of this video. The cheapest line on the whole list. All of that, the part we're told to admire, the part that's supposed to make him the hero who could be you, that's less than 1% of the total. The superpower is everything else. It's the ability to lose $1.5 billion fighting crime and simply not run out. It's owning the factory that makes the impossible. It's the freedom to pour the entire output of a technology empire into a single man's grief and call it justice. Take away the money, and Batman isn't a weaker Batman. He's a very well-trained man who gets shot on his first night because he can't afford the suit that would have stopped the bullet. And that's the uncomfortable thing hiding under the cape the whole time. We love Batman because he tells us that with enough discipline and effort, an ordinary person could rise up and become extraordinary. But the numbers tell a different story. The discipline was real, the effort was real, and neither one is what saved the city. What saved the city was a 9-figure inheritance and a company most people never even think about. The cape is the costume. The fortune is the superhero. So the next time you catch yourself on the couch thinking, honestly, I could be Batman, I just need to get in shape and get some gear, remember the real number. It's not the pull-ups, it's not the willpower, it's the $1.5 billion and the multinational you'd have to already own to spend it. Batman's greatest villain was never a clown or a riddle. It was the invoice, and it's the only enemy he could never actually defeat, only afford. Being Batman costs $1.5 billion, and here's the final, quiet joke the whole legend is built on. The least realistic thing about the most realistic superhero was never the gadgets, or the car, or the cave. It was the bank account. Everything else, you really could train for. That one, you're born into. Thanks for watching. If you want to see another impossible thing priced out to the last dollar, the video on running an entire castle-sized school for 1,000 kids with no tuition is right over there. And spoiler, it's cheaper than one man in a cape. See you in the next one.